Do you want to learn how to make this MrBeast effect? Well, in this video, you're going to be making this with me. So if you want to learn how to make this effect, sit down and relax, and let's get right into it. So the first thing you want to do is watch my beginner tutorial if you haven't already. If you're a beginner, I'll give you a basic rundown on how to maneuver the Fusion page. So the first thing you want to do is drag in a Fusion composition. Then I'm going to pull up the clip I want to recreate. I'm just going to drag this clip on top and match the Fusion composition. I'm going to use this as a reference from now on. I'm going to go into the Fusion page now. Once I'm in the Fusion page, I'm going to drag in a background node and connect that to Media. Then I'm going to drag in my reference here. The first thing you see are these icons here, but what you want to focus on is that background. I didn't screenshot the background, so we can't see it, but it's basically some DNA type thing. I'm going to link this in the description below. The DNA thing that I found. It's not exactly the same, but it'll work. I'm going to press Control Space to bring up the Tool tab and search up Delta Keyer. This will allow us to get rid of the green screen here. You just need to hold that clicker and bring it to the green screen. It's a little bit yellow. You don't have to do this. These are just extra steps, but I'm just going to get a color corrector here and turn it a little bit orange yellow. And I'm also going to decrease the size since it seems that my one is too big. Okay, now the next thing I'm going to do is drag in a render 3D and a merge. This square looks like it's in 3D, and when it comes up, it also looks like it has that 3D element to it. So I'm going to do this in 3D. I'm going to get a merge 3D, and I'm going to connect that in. And then I'm going to use a different technique where I use an extrude 3D with the shader system, the S rectangle here. Usually you would need an S render, but since this goes into the 3D renderer, you don't really need it. So I'll bring up this rectangle here. What you want to do is just make it a little round since the MrBeast one isn't completely sharp. And I'm also going to decrease the color a little bit to a lighter gray. The purpose of using the shader system is that you can make all kinds of shape without being limited to the 3D ones. So what I'm going to do is bring this up in the 3D system, and I'm just going to extrude it. And also I'm going to go back to the S rectangle and get rid of the border. You'll see everything disappears. I'm just going to bring up that border width a little bit so it's nice like that. That looks pretty good. I'm going to bring up my reference again so I can see everything and change this to the second one. Okay, so everything looks nice. So I'm just going to copy Ctrl C and Ctrl V, and I'm going to put that into the merge, and I'm just going to make this one a little bit grayer, like so. We're going to recreate this outer edge border here. So I'm going to go into the merge 3D on the second side. Let me just get rid of this so we can see better. And I'm just going to go into extrude 3D and decrease the scale of it. I'm also going to get rid of my reference, look at the media out, and I'm going to increase the size and also make this one a little bit more forward on the Z-axis so it doesn't clip into the other one. I'm just going to decrease the border width on this S rectangle a little bit. This much will do. Then we're going to increase the size here. It's not clipping anymore, so we can increase the size safely, like so. So now we have that border width here, but we're missing that last gray area in the middle here, right? So I'm just gonna copy the second one and paste it. Go into here. We want to copy the color from the first S rectangle since that color is the same as the first one. And you're not going to see anything, but don't worry, just click solid and it's there. Then we're going to just move this further back on the Z-axis and make sure it's behind this first foundation square. And I just move it back with the Z translation. Now when we look at it here, it's looking pretty good. But you see it doesn't have the same depth effect as these ones do, but that's because we didn't add in our secret technique. Or I mean adding lights here, just click lighting. Click on the spotlight right here, or you can do the curl space, search up spotlight. Go into the 3D here. Move this back and change the X rotation to -90. Move it up. We're going to use a quadratic and just decrease at the K rate. We want it on all sides. So we're going to go here, move it a little bit to the right, and change the Z to a -30. Yeah, -30 to -40, whichever one works better for you. I'll copy the first one and moving it to the left this time, and I'm going to change this to 30, maybe 40. No, not the Y-axis, sorry. The Z rotation to 30. Now you kind of see that it kind of pops out now, but we're going to make it extra poppy by clicking curl space and searching up bevel, hopes, bevel imbos. I'm going to link this plugin down below. It's free, so you just need to download it and you can use it. I'm going to increase sharpness to max and increase height to max. And then I'm going to play with the ambient light till I get an effect that I like. Something like this looks pretty good. Actually, was it more dark? Yeah, it's more darker on the darker end. So I'm just going to do something like that. So now the second thing we want to do. This is where it gets, well, it's not complicated. It's basically the same thing, but it's going to be another 3D renderer since we're going to recreate this sparrow-like thing in 3D as well. Same idea, you want to get a merge and you want to add a 3D renderer. And then I'm going to take another merge here. This is where organization matters. So you should make sure you use an underlay and label everything. But for now, we're just gonna ignore that. We're gonna use the same technique with the extrude 3D, but this time we're gonna use something called an ellipse, an S ellipse. And you see that the process is kind of similar. We just wanna do something like that with the border width first, of course. So we're gonna get rid of the solid, increase the border width, and change this color to a bit gray, maybe a dark gray will do, something like that. And then we're going to decrease this a little bit more just so it barely touches the edge here of the outer rectangle. And yeah, that looks pretty solid. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we're just going to add the spotlights again. Just enable lighting here. Just add the spotlights again. That'll give it that extra poppy effect as before, and we're going to do the same bevel. Just copy this here, and I'm just going to input all of them into the merge 3D here. And did I extrude this one? Let's check. I don't think I did. Okay, yeah, just increase the extrusion depth there. And now you see it gives it that little poppy effect there. And we're just going to go here, add the same bevel, and increase sharpness to max, increase height to max, play with the ambient light a bit, and the equator angle so you get something to your liking. That looks pretty good to me. I'm just going to add a drop shadow here and increase that, and I'm just going to decrease the drop distance. I'm going to decrease the blur until it's kind of translucent, and I'm just going to decrease the drop distance a little bit so it's barely noticeable, like that. For the background here, you can't do the same technique since this is a gradient color, and in the S ellipse you don't really have that gradient color. I'm going to use another merge here, and we're going to add another renderer 3D and another merge 3D. When you get the hang of 3D, everything becomes kind of simple. And then from here, what I want to do is add an image plane and then add a background. Connect that background to the image plane, and then we're going to mask out this background with an ellipse. And look at how perfectly that fit in there. I'm just going to grab in that reference there, put that up in the first viewer, and from this background, I'm going to go into here and gradient color. Then I'm going to go into the second viewer with the gradient color, 2. 1 and 2 is how you do that. And I'm going to move this black area here and the lighter area up here. And I'm just going to zoom in here, and pretty simple. We're going to take this and do that. Take the color picker to the color here, and it'll automatically register that color. Most of the times you have to adjust it yourself, so be sure to check that. I'm going to add another arrow here and pick the red spot in the middle here. And yeah, that looks pretty solid. Okay, the next thing I want to do now is this little glare thing to give it an extra 3D pop effect. To do that, you want to add an image plane, connect that to the merge, connect the background to this one, and let's view the background. You want it a kind of a gradient color. You don't have to do the gradient first. I just choose to do it first because it looks better. Okay, from there, we're going to take this and we're just going to get a polygon here and just polygon this. Just follow these lines here. I'm going to fast forward this because it's just simple masking like that. And then I'm just going to connect it. like so. It's not gonna have the same effect, but don't worry, we can fix that. Okay, you see that's misaligned. What we want to do is we're going to take this image plane and just move it a little bit to the x-axis and move it forward, move it up, just scale it up. I think the pivot's a bit off here, yeah. So if that happens, just change the pivot and make it to the center of this. Make sure it's on the Z. Perfect. So just scale that up until it looks similar to the source. Like so. My polygon isn't the best here. Just gonna smoothen that out a little bit. I mean, mine doesn't look the best. Yours might look a little better. Don't worry that it's not the same right now because I'm gonna fix that. Go into gradients and we're just gonna fix this right now. A little bit gray here and something like this. Okay, we're gonna go back into merge. Still doesn't look like it. And we're just gonna go into the image plane and just decrease the opacity. Still just barely visible. You can also go into the polygon and increase the soft edges a little bit. Just a little bit so that it doesn't have any sharp edges. Just gonna increase the opacity a little bit here. So now we have a similar sort of effect here, but I would say this is a little bit more white on the top here. I'm just gonna adjust it like so. It doesn't look as good right now because we didn't add the lighting. Once you add lighting, everything looks better. So I'm just gonna connect the lighting here. Let's increase the decay rates. Okay, so I just messed around with the spotlights a little bit. You can mess around with it as well to the lighting you desire. The last thing I'm going to do, same thing as before, add the Hope's Bevel. His Hope's Bevel is so good. It's free and it gives you that 3D kind of look. The next thing we want to do is bring on the icons. So I have them right here. I'll link all these assets in the description below so you can follow along with me. So I made it like a green screen type thing. So what you need to do is once you connect it in, grab a delta keyer and key out that green screen like we have done before. It may seem boring, but the more you do it, the more natural it becomes. So when you go into here, it's going to have this outer border here. That's partially my bad. So you're going to have to go here and crop it out, which isn't too tedious. Just decrease the X size a little bit and you have the syringe here. We want to bring it forward and size it down. Following the reference, we're going to change it to the left, the Z rotation. And you see this one's a little bit blurred, so you can move the syringe however you like. You don't really have to copy my settings, just make sure it looks something similar to the MrBeast one. But after you have done that, just grab a blur using Control Space. Grab a blur and blur it a little bit because it's not that sharp in the original MrBeast image. Same thing with the T-bone. I'm going to copy this one from before. You're going to connect the T2 or the T-bone, delta key it. Make sure to go into the delta keyer, put it into your second viewer by clicking 2 so you can key it properly. You're going to have to do the same crop technique, so search up crop as well. Go into crop and keep centered and just decrease the size here, the X size, until you get something like that. Same idea here. You're going to take this and transform it down until it matches the MrBeast one. I mean, the angle's a bit different, but idea is kind of similar. You just want the icon. If you want to transform it differently, you can. I'll probably make a 3D tutorial to make this process a little bit easier since this whole tutorial is basically in 3D. I'm going to add a blur here. Just blur it a little bit as well, like so. And I want to increase that blur a little bit on this syringe as well. Okay, now the easy part basically finished now. So now we're going to do the bubbles that come across the screen here. We're going to add a merge node and we're going to get a renderer 3D, connect that to the merge, same stuff as last time. Get a merge 3D, connect that. But this time, the most important node is a replicate 3D node. We want this to be connected to the merge 3D. We'll grab an image plane. You didn't have to do that. You can, it's right here. Connect that. Let's view the 3D plane. There should be nothing. We'll keep it on default 10 subdivisions and grab another image plane 3D. Then we're going to grab a background node. make it white, and make an ellipse node here. And connect the background to an ellipse and decrease the size until you get individual balls here. Then we're going to take another ellipse node. We're going to copy this ellipse node, copy it into this mask, view it. You see this green spear here. We're just going to decrease it. Click the paint mode to subtract and just soften those edges a little bit. Those are a little translucent at the center. Just going to increase that a little bit. Then I'm going to go here after the background and add a blur node, curl space, make it a little bit blurry. In this replicate 3D node, you see that it's all over the place, right? You want to add an ellipse node to this merge node, which means we're going to contain these bubbles inside this gradient background area. So just add an ellipse and slowly decrease it until it matches the background here. Okay, so now you see it's all uniform. But that's where the replicate 3D comes in. You're going to go to jitter and reseed. Then you're going to go to translation jitter, change the X axis and change the Y axis, change the Z axis to give it a bit of pizzazz. We might want to increase the subdivision here, so we can increase it to 15. And now we have a pretty cool space working for us here. And those are your bubbles. But we want them to be animated, right? So we're gonna go here, start from the bottom, reaches around here, come to frame 0 on this image plane here, keyframe, and then we're just gonna move this up. I would use an expression here, but that's too advanced for beginners right now. So you can just do this, get that same effect, and you can adjust these animation bubbles to your liking. Okay, for the last effect is just a text here. We're just gonna grab a text node and add a 1, make it white, and put it to the side here. Size that up and just blur it a little bit because it's a little blurred in the actual image. Maybe around like a 2, 1.5, 1.5 will do. From there, the last step is the animation. I'm just gonna add a DBE node and I'm going to increase the Z until it's like around there. So we're going to keyframe center and rotation, X rotation on 50. And I think I got the rest there. So what we want to do is just move this down, make sure this is kind of, can make it like this. Get this off the screen here, change the keyframing and make it come up fast. And I'm going to go to settings, enable motion blur, 4 to 80, that's Bija settings. And then I'm going to go on this merge here and click modify, perturb, reseed it a little bit and change it to 0.08, 0.08. This will just give it a little wobble effect as it goes. So you see, you did all of this now. And what you need to do if you want to recreate the other ones is just copy this whole setup, paste it right here, and just change the gradient color and the icon and the number, and you're good. That motion there is made by a transform. The yellow flicker is a little bit more difficult, but you just need to play with the blend on the gradient here. You need to play with the alpha of the not the alpha, the opacity of this one. So boom, boom. You can flicker it on and off like that. And that's how you make that flicker effect. Okay, so this is the complete node tree setup after I copied and pasted it. I didn't really want to show this process because there's nothing special here. You just copy this whole thing and paste it into this node tree. You would then change the font from 1 to 2 and then the gradient color here. You just need to click here to add the arrow so you can change that really easily. So where you place the icon before, just do the same with the new icon. For the blinking effect, I did it a bit differently, but opacity and level is basically the same. So it's the same gradient color node branch here. And what you do, or what I did in my first run, is control the levels from 0 to 1 to get that blinking effect. You can also do it with opacity or level, whichever one you like. You just need to change the DBE transformation. I think I offset it by 5 frames. So one is 0 to 40, blue is 0 to 45, and yellow is 0 to 50, and the mammal is 0 to 55. You just need to change the DVE so it fits in that position. And then if you want to make that movement throughout the whole timeline, you can add a transform at the end and zoom it in around 1.2, 1.25. And since it goes faster at the latter end, I just increase the size very quickly so it goes faster. I didn't change any of the spline. If you want the icons to disappear, just decrease the blend. Yeah, for all of them, I just start at 125, and by the end of the clip, I blended it to 0. And yeah, that's basically how you get it. If you just copy and paste it, you should be able to get that same graphic. You have everything you need to transform everything to how you like. If you like the video, and if you want more, like and subscribe, and see you later.